Okay, friends, I have some feelings about this. I am pro corsets, but I am against gaslighting actors and actresses who say that they don't like them. Historical costuming is having a moment right now. With the rise of history bounding and cottagecore, more and more people are wearing corsets, and they all seem to love them. YouTube is full of myth-busting videos explaining where the lies about corsets came from in the first place, and there's just generally a lot of talk about how comfortable corsets are. And yes, we needed this pro-corset point of view to clear up some of the misconceptions, because for some people, corsets are a great option. But for me, this crosses a line when we start to act like actresses must be lying when they say they were uncomfortable. That's not trying to clear up a misconception, that's trying to discredit someone else's experiences. I think the online costuming community has made a lot of progress busting myths, which is great. It's because of this that I feel like within our own community, we can start looking beyond the love or hate debate and start thinking about why stories like these keep appearing. We're never going to convince the whole world that corsets are comfortable, because to be honest with you, most people don't care. So in this video, I'd like to talk about the reasons that actresses might find their corsets uncomfortable. I'm hoping that I can give you a little bit of insight into film costumes and film sets, and things you might not have considered before. Before we get into that though, there's a couple of housekeeping things I'd like to cover. Firstly, I'd like to be clear that a corset should not hurt you if you're wearing it properly and it fits you well. Yes, you can breathe. Yes, you can move. However, a film set is not exactly an ideal situation, and that's really the point that I'm trying to make here. Secondly, I will be saying actresses in this video. That's not because only women can wear corsets. That's because the specific complaints that I'm looking at are coming from people who identify as female. Anyone can wear a corset. In fact, I highly recommend it if it's something that you're interested in. Thirdly, I thought I should at least mention my qualifications if I'm gonna put something this controversial out on the internet. I have worked on film sets, but I don't actually love it. It's long days and it can be more running around than actually making things, and personally, I prefer making things. I do work in the costume industry, but it's usually more behind the scenes in a workshop that specializes in stuff that's not quite costume, not quite props, both for film and TV and for theatre. I don't make corsets there, but I do make corsets in my own business. My email is down in the description if you want to talk about commissions. And I do have a bachelor's degree that focused on making costumes, specifically historical ones. Cool, so let's get into it. So why do film actresses have such a different experience with corsets than the rest of us? The short answer, it's the film sets, not the corsets. The long answer, it's complicated. Every situation is different, and I'm never going to be able to cover everything, but there are four points that I'd like to talk about. Badly fitting corsets, corsets that are worn improperly, personal preferences, and working hours. Badly fitting corsets is the reason I've heard most often. And to some extent, I can see where people are coming from. Film productions do tend to rent some of their costumes, particularly for crowd scenes and background characters, or if it's a smaller production. And yes, if you're putting actors into corsets that don't fit them, there's a good chance it's not going to be that comfortable. But it's not the extras who were on set for 2 days who were making headlines, or the people who starred in super small films. It's the leading ladies in films that had multi-million-dollar budgets. And I'll be honest with y'all, the fact that the costuming community keeps insisting that all of these actresses must have been in badly fitting corsets is a little insulting. They were never going to put Emma Watson in a 3-for-1 deal from Corset Story. Big films hire specialists to make things for them, and they have incredibly experienced costume departments working for them. A lot of the corsets that have been complained about would have been custom made. And just because the people who made them don't have a YouTube channel or a huge Instagram following, that doesn't mean they don't know what they're doing. So I really don't believe that badly fitting corsets are the problem. Sure, deadlines can be really tight, and not everything that makes it on set is someone's best work. But what bothers me is that this seems to be the default reason that gets given. Sure, if it happened once, maybe if it happened twice. But these stories come out practically every time a new period drama airs. And the costume industry isn't, like, filled to the brim with people who don't know what they're doing. Okay, corsets worn improperly. This one I've heard pretty often as well, and this one I do agree with. I'd like to talk both about mistakes made while dressing, as well as design decisions, like not including shifts. The people who are dressing actors on set aren't necessarily the same ones who made the costume. So yes, mistakes can get made. But again, I'd say this is more of an issue with extras than it is with the leads. You do have people who are specifically looking out for things like continuity, particularly surrounding the character that everyone in the theatre is going to be looking at. And generally, if someone's dressing a big name actress in a big budget film, they're gonna need to know what they're doing. So that brings us to design decisions, the lack of shifts and chemises. Historically, corsets were not worn against bare skin. That's both for hygiene reasons, because shifts and chemises are much easier to wash than corsets themselves, as well as comfort reasons. Corsets can rub and pinch if you wear them directly on your skin. You could make a few different arguments here as to why, but I do think it's largely because that's what modern audiences expect. Modern fashion or fancy dress corsets are usually worn directly on the skin, or they're worn as outerwear, and our own bras and underwear are worn directly on the skin. So for the general public, a shift is a pretty foreign concept. And I know that some people argue that historical dramas are there to educate the public, but first and foremost, this is entertainment. It's not there for education. Also, boobs and the imbalance between men and women who are in the roles where these decisions get made. Personal preferences. I'd like to talk about how different modern fashion is from historical corsetry. If your wardrobe consists of leggings and t-shirts and someone puts you in a corset, it's going to feel very different from what you're used to. It doesn't matter how perfectly that corset fits you, it's probably going to feel a little bit weird at first. And if you're not used to it, it can be a bit of a shock to the system, particularly if you're being thrown in the deep end and you go from never wearing a corset to wearing a corset all the time. There's a reason that people tell you to ease into it and go at your own pace when you start wearing corsets. I do think mindset plays into this as well. If you wear a corset regularly, that's probably because you like corsets. You've probably done your own research, you probably know what the myths are and what to expect, and you can take it at your own pace. I don't think that's necessarily the situation for these actresses. If all of your knowledge about corsets comes from friends who had bad experiences, that's not setting you up to have a good experience. I'd also like to mention that not everyone likes corsets, even within the costuming community. Some people don't like to have any pressure on their waist. Some people just don't find them comfortable. And I think we can get so wired to defend corsets to people who don't know anything about them that we forget that our peers are not the ones who need educating. We're all individuals. We're allowed to have different experiences and different preferences. And that brings us to working hours. I haven't really heard anyone else bring what it's actually like on a film set into this argument, but that's where I think the actual problem is. Being on a film set is hard work. We're talking about 12-hour days where you need to be ready to go at any moment. You might be on your feet a lot, particularly if you're an actress wearing a very elaborate costume and you need to make sure it doesn't get wrinkled between takes. It's tiring. I can end up sore and exhausted after a day on set, even in the most comfortable clothing I own. And this is where I feel that everything starts to come together, because any little issue is going to feel 10 times worse by the end of a 12-hour day. Think about the suitcase that you were going to take on vacation, back when we could take those. You lifted it up in your bedroom and you thought, yeah, I can carry this, no problem. And then, by the third or the fourth set of stairs that you had to trek it up on the way to wherever you're going, you start to have some serious regrets. If you're not used to a corset, you might be totally fine for a few hours, but by the 11-hour mark of a busy day, you're probably not going to feel great anymore. I've done photo shoots where the model didn't wear anything underneath the corset, and for a few hours, it's totally fine. I've done photo shoots where the corset didn't fit the model that well, and again, it's fine for a short while. But we're not talking about a short while here. We're talking about long days where an actress can't take it at her own pace. If she's been wearing the corset for 6 hours, she's not really used to it, she's starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable, but there's still a couple of hours of filming left. There's a full crew around, let's say 50 people, everything's set up. Tomorrow there's something totally different on the schedule. Tough luck. The actors are not the ones calling the shots on set. And I think it's easy for people to not take this into consideration because I realise that most people haven't been on a film set. And I guess that's why I wanted to make this video, because I think we could all just stand to be a little bit more considerate of other people and other people's experiences. And I'm not saying that we need to stop putting the word out there that corsets aren't evil. I'm just saying that sometimes people have bad experiences, and those experiences are valid too. We don't need to try to discount them to make our point. I'm calm, it's fine. I wanted to do a quick little bonus section talking about those sensationalized anti-corset, she was nearly cut in half news articles. So I don't know if you've ever gone digging after reading one of those, but thanks to the internet, quite often you can find the original interviews that they pulled quotes from. And the interviews are usually much more laid back. In fact, all the ones I found are much more laid back. The news articles are purposefully over the top and making things sound as extreme as they possibly can, because the whole point of the news article is to grab people's attention, to get people to read it. The interviews usually explain that the actress nearly passed out during her fitting because she had just come straight from a long plane ride, or that the actress found her corset a bit uncomfortable because the on-set catering was so good that she ate too much. And if that's not relatable, then... Alright, so I think that basically wraps things up now. Initially, I was planning on doing an experiment as part of this video. I wanted to wear the same corset on 2 different days, one normal day and one a film set day, just a longer, more strenuous day basically, since obviously I can't like fabricate an entire film set experience inside my flat in the middle of lockdown. But the idea was that I'd be able to show you that the situation can have a bigger impact on comfort than the corset itself. But the first day of the experiment was actually today. So I've been wearing a corset all day. Spoiler alert, it was totally fine, no problems whatsoever. And yes, I can film the second half of it if people are super curious, but I do feel I've kind of made my point, so I won't do it unless people are really into the idea. And yeah, I was really not planning on making a video where I just talked at you the whole time, but I have a lot of feelings about this. So anyway, please don't hate me for saying that corsets can be uncomfortable in the wrong situation, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!